2013 has come and gone.
2013.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
And we are here to recap our top 10 albums of the year. What we're going to do is alternate back and forth. We're not going to guess this time. We're talking a little bit about why we like these albums, our top 10 albums of the year. Spoiler, they're all going to be dance related, I'm pretty sure. Joz, do you have any curveballs in there?
No.
No. Okay, so they're all electronic dance music related. Surprise, we like dance music.
I feel like the amount of times you say surprise we like dance music when I'm sitting here with a video for you is astronomical.
Really?
Yeah, you've said it a few times.
Oh, I don't remember ever saying it. I'm just a creature of habit.
You're tripping.
Before we get into it, thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Anything you do to support us, we appreciate. Thank you to Joey Pecoraro for letting us use his music in the backgrounds of our videos. He did release an album this year called All the Things in the World. Go check that out. It's lo-fi. This one was more indie rock-ish, indie-tronica-ish. Links will be in the description for everything, social medias, all that sort of shit.
Are we doing 10 to 1
Yeah.
and then doing honorable mentions?
Let's do 10 to 2, and then right before we get to number 1, we'll do our honorable mentions.
I don't have as deep of answers as he does. I didn't put as much work into this.
We flip-flopped where I actually have notes written and Jaws does not. She's just going off the dome for once, and
Yeah.
I actually have some things written down, which is very opposite for what we normally do. Jaws, you want to go first? Ladies first.
So my number 10 album of 2023 is Heritage by Habstract. I love Daddy Habby. That is... Shut up, let me call him Daddy Habby. We just saw him at Hijinks, and he was phenomenal in his B2B with Joyride. He did play a lot of the songs from the album, which was cool, but I didn't listen to the album until after we saw him at Hijinks, so I didn't know. So it was kind of a throwback for me. It's just a lot of house, pretty good house. I would say it borders bass house, but it's pretty basic house, realistically. I don't think it's anything like super unique, but it's just a good, solid album.
My number 10 is Evolve by Subfocus. This is D&B, starting off in the D&B corner for me. I really liked it. His style on this album I described as simple but effective, where there wasn't a lot of layers, wasn't a lot of over crazy complications or crazy rhythms or anything like that. It felt like very simple to me, but it was very effective. It felt very emotional and uplifting in parts, especially like I Found You, Vibration as well. Ayo, ayo, say it one more time. Ayo, ayo. I just felt like there was a lot of soul and passion in each of the tracks, and it really grabbed me. And we're going to see Subfocus in March.
We'll be at the Echo Stage show, so if you're going to be at the Echo Stage show to see Subfocus and Dimensions and Shock Culture and 1991, we will be there. Find us.
We will be there.
My number 9 is Existential Dance Music by San Holo, which it was much higher up on my list, but there's some really good albums from last year. I love San Holo. We love San Holo, but I just don't think it was as good as some of the other albums on my list, realistically. I think it was a solid album, but I don't know.
Just
It's
after
hard.
listening to other albums, it kind of slid down the list.
Yeah, I'm like, well, that's an album
That's
I
fine.
can listen to, but I feel like it's more of a passive listen for me. So I'm
Okay.
like, it's really good, but I'm probably not going to listen to it all the time. The tour was phenomenal.
The crowd energy at that show was unreal. Number 9 for me, I have Too Rough Volume 1 by Chase and Status. This album is just banger after banger. It's just heat the whole time. There's one exception, which is Say the Word, which is the only emotional-esque one, and that song is underrated. It is like a hidden gem on that album. This album just gets me amped from start to finish. Obviously, Badadan is huge. That's like all over the place right now. I honestly like Liquor and Cigarettes better, which is the song before it on the album, I believe. But either way, those songs are incredible. They get me so hyped up. It's just so British too. They got a lot of like the drill UK rapping over the top of it. It is just so much fun. I love every second of it.
My number 8 is Genesis by White Fang, Alice in Wonderland's side project, which I didn't really like this album when it first came out. And then I sat there and I listened to it again and I was like, are you an idiot?
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
Because I'm like, this is such a good album. Because it's not just techno, which is really what she set out for it to be. There's trap influences, house influences, there's pretty much everything in there, which is crazy. And I listened all the way through and I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely come back to this one.
You were like, what were you thinking the first time?
I know, I'm like, what kind of mood was I in that I didn't like this album?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love it.
Number 8 for me, I have Don't Look at Me by Monica. I'm going to use the same phrase I did for Subfocus, which is simple yet effective, but this is way different. It's not D&B, it's lo-fi indie-tronica. Pop-esque. There was a lot more electronic elements to this album as opposed to some of his earlier work, which was mainly sample-driven. I think he's been stepping up his production and learning how to produce more and making a lot of the songs himself, which is great. There's still some very strong samples on it. I Look Into Her Eyes and Little Love. Those songs are both phenomenal. There's a sort of whimsy to it, is the way I would describe it. It feels very light and whimsical. I don't have another word for it. It's still very expressive and really like paints a world for you. It's very interesting, but I like it a lot. Monica is very underrated. I believe he's French too. I just like French producers for whatever reason. They're very good.
It's a weird thing you got going on for you.
I don't like the French for anything except for their music, apparently.
The music bangs.
The music bangs. Go check it out.
7. Yep. I have Syntheism by EPROM, which is probably going to shock any of the 10 people who watched this video.
I was shocked when you told me, because you don't normally like the really weird shit
but
like that.
I always like EPROM. I've never not liked EPROM. I believe Shades was on mine last year.
That's true. So you only like the dark, heavy shit when it's EPROM,
When it's
basically.
EPROM. I only like EPROM. I like EPROM sets. I like EPROM's music. It's deep, dark, and I'm not going to say dangerous because that's truth and we don't like
We
truth.
didn't like truth.
It's just such a solid album, and I feel like it does take you on a very deep journey through all of the songs, and I just really enjoyed the album.
Number 7 for me, I have Eyes Wide Open by Peekaboo. It hits me right in the center of the brain. I wrote down it's very cerebral, where it's like literally in the very center part of my brain, all that low end stuff just goes straight there and just tickles it. It's really great.
It tickles it so much, he's hearing it in his head right now.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Peekaboo's production on this. I feel like he stepped it up. The textures of his sounds on this are very good. I'm going to use the word crunch again. That's how I love describing some of the more visceral, thicker sounding, I guess, low-end stuff. I think the ZZ collab is like one of the best collabs of the year and very slept on. Bumpin' is incredible too. There's some range on here too from Peekaboo with tracks like You Got Me and I've Been Thinking. I've Been Thinking is just straight up a house song, which is awesome. I just liked the range that he went for, and I think he nailed it.
My number 6 is Out of Bounds by Mersive. Another wobbly wub producer I do enjoy is Mersive. I have been following Mersive since he first stepped into the scene. I think my first Mersive set was like in 2016. It's been a long time with me and Mersive. I think Mersive's sound design is one of the most innovative right now. I think he just continues to push his personal sound, and I really like this album because of it.
Number 6 for me, I have Paths by G. Jones. I thought this had a very strong narrative, one of the stronger narrative albums of the year. The opening line is, I would say that you spend too much time alone in your fantasies, be careful, which are all the different paths. So the whole album is just him getting lost in his thoughts. He's kind of like in his own dream world through life. And then it ends with, one last time, I have to see this ground. It's beautiful now. Soon they will tear down the main house and then nothing will be left. Nothing except what I remember, which I think is cool because it's kind of like him snapping back to reality and being like, I've had all these fantasies and stuff like this and only I'm gonna remember it, basically. There's songs like Which Way, which he's like, which path do I take? There's The Long Walk Home, which is right before the ending of the album, which is him like returning back to where he started, basically. I just love this album. I think it's really expressive. G. Jones, on this album in particular, it really struck me how he has a strong foundation, a motif, if you will, for each song, and then he just always brings it back around to it with all kinds of different crazy production things coming in and out, but it maintains that same foundation, that same structure. It just blew me away. He does low-end shit, he does more melodic shit. It just really came together so well on this album. Glowing Experiences, that is one of my favorite songs of the year for sure. I can just get lost in it. The percussion in alone is amazing. I just, whew. Paths, G. Jones, so fucking good.
Alright, my number 5 is Play by R.L. Grime. It was my number 3 for a while, and I found 2 other albums that I thought superseded it, and I think one of the main reasons is because the length of Play is so long. It's such a good immersive album, but it's so long.
It takes a while to get
It
through.
takes so long to get through that album, and I don't even know how long it actually is. But
I do. It's an hour and 17 minutes.
it's so long for an EDM album when most of the other albums are like 30 to 45 minutes
Yep.
tops. I'm like, it's an extra 30 minutes or an extra 45 minutes on top of some of them. I'm like,
Right.
it's just very long to get through, but all of the songs are amazing. We also heard him at Hijinks, and that was phenomenal, and we got to hear some of the songs played live. It's a really good album. It's just very long, so it had to go down a couple pegs on mine.
You even said to me that it was going to be at 3 unless some other things actively knocked it down, and then That's what happened.
And that's what happened.
Number 5 for me is Always in a Hurry by Medicine. This was a huge departure of his sound, where there was almost no lyrics. There was very minimal electronic elements. It was all live music. I mean, obviously he's had some like jazzier elements before, but the thing that really struck me was the percussion. He learned to play the drums and he played percussion live on each song on this. There was more horns, there was saxophone, all that sort of stuff. So he basically took like his jazzier influences on his previous music and just made a jazz album, and it's really good. The song Up and Down is electric. There are lyrics in that song, but it's literally them in the studio just hyping each other up. I forget what the lyric is in the beginning. He's like, that's fucking it right there, and then he just starts banging on the drums, and it got a great push-pull where like it builds up and then it like pulls back and then it builds up again and pulls back. It's the ups and downs. Great track. 4
is probably an artist that most people don't know. I have Echoes in Eternity by Notaker. Notaker is an artist that I've also followed for a very long time. I was supposed to see him live for the first time, the only time I've had the option to, at Global Dance in 2019, the day that we got rained out. So if you were there, you missed a good set, and so did I. Echoes in Eternity is kind of a surprise album, I think, because it's so ethereal. I would say that this album for me is probably what Paths by G. Jones is for you, because that's the same kind of vibe it gives you. There's this journey and you're literally going into eternity as you do it. It's such a genre bending album. There's no real genre to it. There's definitely house in there. There's some trap in there.
There's some future bass, I would say.
Future bass, melodic stuff in there. It's such a variety album, but it all flows together so well. And this is something I said to him when we were listening to it. Every song flows into the next song, so there's no real stop between the songs, but there still is to where you could listen to them separately, and I just think it's a beautiful album.
I just like the name too, Echoes in Eternity. It puts an idea in your brain like immediately.
Yeah, you definitely have to put the album artwork somewhere.
Oh, it'll be on here when we talk about it.
Here. Because the album artwork is also beautiful. And I don't know who did it. I don't know if he did it or if he had somebody make it up, but it's so pretty.
Number 4 for me is Play by RL Grime. It was 5 for you, it was 4 for me. So pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and defend along play length right now because it's his first album in 5 years. So he was like, here's a bunch of music. So I respect that. There's 3 distinct phases. He separates them by literally the song Play. And the first one is Apex, which is all the hype, super aggressive, like loud, in your face stuff. The second one is called Grid. That's where all the lyrics on the album comes in. It's a lot of the lyrical stuff. It's more melodic, but it still has that sense of scale. And then the last one is called Rush. This is more vibey stuff, more melodic. Not as much lyrics. I think there's a few here and there. I just think this album came together really well. Obviously, it has been 5 years since he's released music. The thing that really struck me with it was how every song sounds big and important. It's got such a large sense of scale. It like surrounds you in sound constantly. I just felt the energy, the tension, the build-ups, and the release of every song was very rewarding. When we were listening to it in the car, I was like, Jaws, take this note down for me. Big.
Big. I'm like, that's 3 letters. You can probably take that note down
Big.
yourself.
Yes, and I expanded on it in my notes, but it's big. It's a big album, and it's in every sense of the word, even playtime. The playtime is big too. It's just a big album, and I love it. It's been 5 years.
I have ADHD. I can't even listen to albums most of the time. That's what makes it so difficult for me.
True.
I'm like, I need song after song after song. They all have to be different people, different versions, different lyrics.
You can listen to the 3 different sections at 3 different times then.
I could do that. That would probably be better. I'd be like, no, this is just 3 EPs. 3 EPs.
There you go. We are on to our top 3.
Top 3. My number 3. If you really, really like house music, and you really, really like bass, and you really, really like old house music with bass, you're really gonna like Together by AC Slater, because AC Slater is the king of night bass. That's his label, and as you all know, all 2 of my fans, I love night bass. That's probably my favorite label that has ever existed. It has some of the best artists on it, and AC Slater started it. Together is very short, so much better than RL Grime.
I think it was like 27
it's
minutes.
30 minutes. It has so much funk on it. It has 2 melodic, feelsy house songs. It's got a hype songs. I'm like, for such a short album, it has so much different variety of house, but all of it's so solid and good, and I just love it. The whole latter half of the album is very old house feeling, where you're like, oh, this is 90s, 2000s vibes, but with a 2020s kick on it with the bass, and I just think it's a super cool album, and everyone should listen to it.
You know what kind of struck me that made it feel like the older sounding stuff was how much things looped, especially the vocal samples and stuff like that, the repetitive nature of it, where it was literally scratching and looping things like that. It really pulled that element out of it. Like you're saying, it sounded old even though it was new. It was interesting.
It's a good album. So good.
So good.
So good.
Number 3 for me is Micro Worlds by Closey, and I just want to start by saying I think that is the perfect name for the album. Every song feels like a peek into a micro world, some sort of feeling or emotion that she is trying to project into the world, and it is very expressive like another artist who's going to appear in the top 2, who I think is very expressive with their music writing. Closey's album reminds me of it, where you get the exact vibe they're going for. There's no ambiguity about it. It's just, here's what I'm feeling. It's very complex still, complex emotions, but you get exactly what I'm going for. The one thing I've always liked about Closey too is how she blends all sorts of different sounds together. Like there's obviously electronic elements, but she uses sitar, pan flute all over the place, strings and horns, and a lot of weird percussion stuff. So it feels very tribal, I guess is the word I would use. She uses very warm, inviting synths and vocal chops and chantings. It makes you feel like you're a part of something, you know? It's a very rich world, a micro world, if you will.
I do like that album. Closey's album is pretty good.
Yeah.
Also, she's adorable.
I love Closey.
Number 2
2
is Millennium. After the epic fail for me personally of Fallen Embers, Millennium. It's like Moon.
It's like Moon or like Derivative Sandstorm by Derivative Sandstorm.
Yeah. The Millennium self-titled album is probably my second favorite Millennium album, realistically. It supersedes Ashes and Ascend. I think because this album actually feels like growth. I found him in Awake era, and I needed him in Awake era. Ascend was okay, but I was at a weird place in my life then. And then Fallen Embers, we don't talk about Fallen Embers, the album that shouldn't be named. This feels like grown-up themes in a way, where one of the songs is gonna be featured in our wedding. Very mature themes, while it's still sad boy stuff. There's not all positivity and positive songs on there. It hit me right, and I'm proud of him for coming back to what he does best.
It felt like his themes have matured, have gotten deeper. It's not just like, oh, she broke up with me, now I'm sad. It's deeper. It's more three-dimensional.
He's had deep songs on previous albums, but I feel like Fallen Embers was just so baseline for what he could have given us. It felt like I'm putting together popular songs so they can be popular and be played, and this felt like he really got back to having soul in his music.
He put the passion back in.
Yeah, he has a lot of passion in it, and I appreciate that.
That makes sense. Number 2 for me is Existential Dance Music by Son Holo. Obviously, I am a huge Son Holo fan. You're a huge Son Holo fan too, obviously.
Yeah, he's still in my top 10, the tattoo.
Yeah, we got matching tattoos. He's the person who I was talking about that is similar to Closey, where their songs are so expressive in what they're trying to convey to you. It's very emotionally complex, but very descriptive at the same time. I thought this was a step up from Baby You Okay. Baby You Okay was fine.
I agree with you.
Of his 3 albums, I think Baby You Okay is the lowest. This competes with album 1. I will be honest with you. It gets up there. I obviously love the theme of existentialism, about questioning who you are. By the end of it, we reach the point where it doesn't matter. I know what I'm not, and I'm just going to keep doing my thing. You know, you don't necessarily have to know who you are. You can just keep doing your thing. And the last song conveys it's, I know what I'm not. I really like how he tied it back in with album 1 at the end, where the ending notes of the album is the down, 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 down. Which is how album 1 starts and finishes as well. So I thought it was a great full circle moment where even after all this time, all the lows, all the highs, he's still him, he's still doing his thing. I thought it was just a beautiful album from top to bottom. That was from start to bottom. From top to finish. Sophie Winterson returned for this album as well. She was on 2 songs when she was on album 1 with Lift Me From the Ground. Lizzie Land crushed it on 3 of her songs, or she was on 3 songs and she crushed all of them. I really like his compositions as well because he layers traditional instruments with electronic elements and goes back and forth seamlessly. Like there are multiple points on this album where it just goes into this beautiful string epic ending at the end of a song just out of nowhere. Like all the other elements drop out and I was just like, holy shit, this is beautiful. This was a wonderful album.
Very good.
Yeah.
Much like Yay.
Much like yay.
Yeah, much like yay. We're going to honorable mention. So my number 1 honorable mention is The Long Way Home by Midnight Kids. This was on my top 10 for a while, and then I re-listened to it and I'm like, you know, it is a good album. It's a solid album. I think it definitely deserves praise. But I don't know if it's as good as I originally thought, that it excelled expectations. I think once I listened to it again, I'm like, oh, this pretty much meets expectations, like it's solid for Midnight Kids. I thought it deserved some praise, but not a top 10 spot. My number 2 honorable mention is Please Touch by Rose. It is a full techno album. I don't imagine many of you probably have heard it, but it's super good. It's like 7 to 8 minute songs
I've
each.
never even heard of Rose until you told me about this album.
It's a good album. I listen to a lot of techno albums. Unfortunately, none of them like hit me in the same spot as some of these more melodic albums, which is probably why a lot of people are like, techno's boring. Because it gives you emotions, but it's not the same as somebody telling you the emotions via lyrics.
It's more interpretive.
Yeah, and then my 3rd and final honorable mention is KX5, because I love that they came together, created their own little duo, and now we're done with it, I guess. I don't know what happened. They were like, yeah, it was good, and then they're done. And it's a good album, but I feel like the flow on that album is just not there. Like, there's not a lot of flow. They were just like, these are songs.
A collection of songs.
These are songs we put together and made together, and here's an album. I can listen to it, but very separated out.
My honorable mention number 1 is Alchemy by Disclosure. I did not think I was going to like this album nearly as much as I did, and then I turned it on, and it just had earworms. It would just get stuck in my head, and I'll just be thinking about them as I was going about my day. I like the themes of it, too, of finding the love and all that sort of stuff. There's traveling sounds of just basically looking around for your love and where you can find it. Honorable mention number 2 is Invisible Cinema by Daily Bread. I was not familiar with Daily Bread's music until this year when I listened to Invisible Cinema, and then we saw him at Electric Forest, and he had a great set. Invisible Cinema, or I guess Daily Bread in general, his style is very interesting. It almost feels like lo-fi in a sense of where he pulls the vocal samples from, but then he mixes it into more experimental music. It's an interesting blend. I definitely want to listen to him more and follow his music from now. And then number 3 was Guiding Hands by Ford. This was Ford's 2nd album, I believe. Or no, this is like his 4th album, I think. This one didn't hit the same highs as The Color of Nothing for me. It was a little shorter, I think only like 30 minutes or so. I liked it. I just didn't come back to it as much as I had hoped, and all the songs weren't as filled out as I would expect. It was good, just not top 10.
Yeah, it was like your Midnight Kid, Ford and Midnight Kids. Same ideals there
Yeah.
for us. Number one album.
Number 1.
Mine was Evolve by Subfocus.
Ayo, ayo.
One more time. I don't know how many people actually know that I'm a huge Subfocus fan. He likes Subfocus, I like to say mostly because of me, because I have pushed Subfocus so hard.
It's
on
not
him.
because Subfocus music is good, it's because Jaws likes Subfocus.
It's both. It's both. I don't know if he would have pursued Subfocus as much. I don't know if you would have seen him at EDC if it weren't for me, because I made him go see the Wilkinson Subfocus Portal set. This album, I put it up there with like Taurus levels, and Taurus is probably one of my favorite EDM albums of all time because it has Tidal Wave on it. Subfocus doesn't miss.
This motherfucker don't miss.
Every single thing he puts out is just so top tier to me, and I don't understand how one person can be so godly when it comes to music. But I've never heard a set I disliked. I've never heard a song I've disliked, really. I mean, I've liked some songs more than others, but like all of the albums flow super well.
The bar is high.
It's so high.
Like you're saying, there's never been a miss.
For me personally,
For you personally.
Subfocus has never missed. Therefore, when Evolve came out, I pretty much knew it was going to be up there for me because I knew he wasn't going to depart too far from being a god at DMB.
D&B God.
DMB God. I think Evolve is absolutely a masterpiece. I can listen to that album over and over and over and over and over again, and I cannot listen to albums. We touched on that earlier. I cannot listen to albums the way I can listen to just regular songs, but this is so varied, even though it's all DMB and it's all good vibes.
And we have one of those songs on our wedding playlist as well.
Yeah, we do.
Ayo, ayo.
One more time.
Ayo,
I'm
ayo.
not doing it again. No more times.
I can feel the new vibration.
Okay, will you talk about your number 1?
My number 1 album is, surprise, surprise, Quest for Fire by Skrillex. It was 9 years since he dropped an album, and oh boy, did he drop an album. Two, actually.
2 albums.
The second one was okay. Didn't make my top 10 or my top 13 if you count my honorable mentions, but that's okay. You know, Don't Get Too Close has its own vibe that it went for. It hit that vibe.
Oh, Dwight did it.
Quest for Fire is just heater after heater. I just love how after 9 years, I still felt like he was pushing the boundaries of music. We saw him at Hijinks, and the way he mixed all the songs together was chaotic but also good at the same time. He mixed the songs in ways that obviously weren't the flow of the album but still worked really well together. He is just a master of his craft. I just love Skrillex. He was one of the first person I ever started listening to.
Would you say he's godly to you in music production?
No. Well, I don't like using that phrase godly, especially for
The
production.
Catholic in him.
Yeah, kind of. I think the best producer is Flume.
I thought you were gonna say me.
No, not me. Is
me.
Flume. Like, Flume is, in my opinion, the best producer.
Opio's also pretty good.
Opio's a good producer. Skrillex is obviously up there too and precedes Flume, but this is not about Flume. This is about Skrillex. Quest for Fire. He brought it. He fucking brought it.
He did.
Tears, Supersonic, Hydrate,
Sonic.
Inhale, Exhale. What have you done to me? No, that's not it.
What? Do you
Don't-
just give a Lane 8 song to Skrillex?
Shh. That's cut. Don't Leave Me Like This.
Oh, that's better.
That's what I was thinking of. Still here with the ones that I came with. It's just banger after banger. There's huge names on it like Peekaboo, Porter Robinson, Fortet, Fred Again. It's just a wonderful album, and I'm sure you've heard it. Rumble is incredible. Flowdan is on it a few times. It was a great year for Flowdan. I'm just going to throw that out there. 2 songs on the Skrillex album, a song on the Peekaboo album, a song on Chasing Status, which is Badadon, which is like the biggest song of the year. Go Flowdan. There we go. Top 10s. That's our top 10s of the year.
Top 10s of the year, honorable mentions. Go listen to all of them if you haven't heard any of them.
Go check them out.
If you haven't heard any of them, are you living under a rock? You've probably at least heard one of
Yeah.
these.
What do you like, Nickelback?
Look at this graph.
Nickelback's not that bad.
No, they're not that bad, but I'm saying like normie music.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah,
you
normie
listen to
music.
Ariana Grande?
Lana Del Rey.
Lana Del Rey? SZA? Actually, her album was
I
pretty good.
was like, why are you bringing SZA into
I
this?
like
Leave
her
her
album.
alone. Leave SZA alone.
Leave SZA alone. Thank you for watching,
Thank
liking,
you for
sharing,
watching.
subscribing.
We'll make you one big playlist
We'll have-
and put it in the description below.
One big playlist in the description. Oop, that's the wrong hand. In the description below. I've been streaming on Twitch and YouTube. So if you're on here on YouTube already, great. That's also on Twitch, twitch.tv/Autobotanist. That's just me gaming occasionally. Baldur's Gate streams Sundays at 7 p.m.
I occasionally watch him stream.
Jaws
That's
occasionally watches me stream.
how I'm involved.
She'll be in the chat sometimes. Another quick little update is we're probably not going to be doing Jeff's as much anymore because it takes too much
Good
time.
girl, busy. I got a wedding to plan.
Yeah, we got
I'm
a wedding to plan.
Working. We have 2 dogs.
We're probably not going to be doing Jeff's as much except for some like really big albums.
Yeah, we're gonna make it more specialized, so we're not working our tushies off on one type of video, but we'll be doing other types of videos.
We're going to be doing other types of video, and we're going to just be doing shorter
short form
album
content.
reviews. Like maybe 5 to 10 minutes, so that
Yeah.
way it's easier. Right now, we're trying to scope out doing Eliminate's album in February and Rez's album in March. So maybe we can review an album a month or something.
Because Rez is where all this started,
Rez is where all this started.
so she deserves our time and effort.
Damn right. That's it.
That's it. Thank you.
Love you. Bye.